truth, logic, common sense, that good feeling, and yes, even a little psychoanalysis, as we are once again together, you and I, to discuss Chad and Lori Daybell. Idaho, what a place. Been here since last Sunday. Glad that all of you have come along. The Rays have helped old KJ out so very much. I'm currently in the hotel room. I couldn't think of any other place that I could shoot this vid, this pre-record, on the summarization, y'all. To just summarize it all, what went on yesterday through all our trips to different points of interest, okay? You know, it was like a blur for the most part. Wayne, bless his heart, had to put up with me, front seat driving with him the whole time. But he was a good little camper because he knows old KJ loves him. She's going to give him lots of hugs and kisses. Ain't that right, Mr. Wayne?
Yes, absolutely.
I don't know why he puts up with me, but I do want to thank all of y'all that had such kindness in your heart to leave comments about Mr. Wayne. He is absolutely the best of me. He keeps me in line. And, you know, besides that, think about this. Who in the hell's going to damn marry me, you know? It's got to be somebody with some courage, someone who's got an adventurous spirit, and that look on his face sometimes, it's absolutely priceless. But I put on the community wall, my forethoughts on what we were going to talk about when I came to y'all, about how I woke up this morning and things were just a little different for me, a little shifted in terms of my theories and my hypotheses. It's up to all of us to get justice through understanding, whatever that means to us in our own way. But you can be sure that when I read your comments, they point me in many directions. So let me just start off by saying this. What's most important with what Mr. Wayne and I have done so far in terms of giving a demonstration of our, efforts to fill in those little pieces of the puzzle. The bottom line is that it was always about what you had to say back to us. The comments are what is most important. And by the way, if you really want to learn a little bit more about this case, it ain't the vids that old KJ has shot. It's the comment sections full of very informative and just mind-boggling observations. So read those comments. Go to the vids that I posted yesterday on all of our different little excursions, and you might just learn something you didn't know. I know I've learned a lot. I've always been educated by all of you. So I wrote down some notes to kind of just give me a jumping off point on what I was thinking and feeling, and some of the points that some of you made, some of the things that I had extracted from yesterday's trip there. And but before I do that, I want to thank Carrie Ann from Idaho Falls for treating Mr. Wayne and I to a wonderful lunch and dessert. And as a matter of fact, I said in the vid, and I stand behind it, because a Ray reached out to us, I am donating $100 on behalf of Meeting Carrie Ann to Crescia K. Easton and Difficult Research. With that also said, you had Jerry Harris, who was in Ammon in Idaho Falls, which we'll go into that little aspect here in a minute about Ammon. But Jerry Harris also took the time to hunt me down. I was so humbled that she would come and find me, of all places, the Sportsman's Warehouse, where Alex Cox went in there, basically, in my view, to get ready for his hunting, his evil-ass hunting. Well, I don't know what he was in there for. It could have been for ammo. It could have been for gear of some different sort. Could have been anything that they found in the back floorboard of his Ford F-150, a tow strap, different items. I mean, he went in there for some reason. And let me be clear. Jerry Harris and Carrie Ann, they opened up my heart even more. And because Jerry Harris also sought me out, that is another $100 with a total of $200 going to Crescia K. Easton and Difficult Research for her travel costs. If you haven't donated or you feel that you want to do something for a victim's family member, please go to Difficult Research and in her About section and donate. There's many different ways to do that. And if you don't want to donate that way, go to the Merch Shop. They've got a lot of really beautiful stuff in commemoration of JJ, Tammy, Tylee, and Joe, okay? So if you'd like to do something to help Crescia, I mean, you're not going to do any better than that as far as I'm concerned. So thanks again, Carrie Ann and Jerry Harris. I love you, ladies. Thank you so much. So back to this whole thing. What can I say? We've seen pictures. We've seen reports of these points of interest. Lori's apartment complex, Chad's residence, the fence out there. When I got back to the hotel room last night, the only thing that I kind of regretted is I didn't focus in more on the fence of JJ and Tylee's, to honor them and everything. That it just was very hurtful. And, just to let y'all know, being the old country girl I am and y'all knowing how I am, I was seething with anger by the time I got over to Madison County Women's Detention Center. As y'all can plainly tell if you watch the vid, I was venting. That damn hussy. I hope she damn gets it when she goes to prison, whatever that means. But there were a lot of comments, and I want to go into those. And I appreciate all of the comments, but I noticed that Bernadette spent 2 hours looking at pictures of gun and ammo stores near Rexburg. So that tells you there are people, people come on this channel for whatever reason they do. No one is wrong. Some are here for research, analysis. Some are just here to be supportive. Some just want to listen right along. And there are many that never comment at all, just are here for whatever reason they are. Everyone is welcome here. This channel is not for everyone, but everyone is welcome. So Bernadette did that. Then you had Jean Panek, Kim Nix, Cindy 8947, Donna Donald, and Cindy K, who let me in on something, and that was that they believed my little, needle in a haystack thing that I tried to figure out about the ammo on the shelf. They felt like that was in a place called the Gun Shop in Idaho Falls. So what did I do? I mean, I felt like a dumbass, basically, because I went back when I got back at the hotel and I started looking, and I clicked on the East Idaho News image of that same picture on the shelf of the ammo, and they had the article, and by gosh, I missed it. It did say that September the 23rd, y'all, that's a very important date in 2019, that picture was taken at the gun shop in Idaho Falls. So what I said, well, dang, I missed that. That was kind of ignorant to go through all that trouble to look for, the possibility that ammo was in a pawn shop or at the Sportsman's Warehouse and all of that. But then I went and I did a little research, and just to let y'all know, the gun shop in Idaho Falls is in Bonneville County in Idaho Falls. And where is that, y'all? That's in Ammon. Again, I've made myself clear on this bullshit about Ammon and Melanie P. being there. She needs to go there, stay there so she don't get in trouble. Then the fact that Alex was even there. Excuse me, y'all. This weather has just got my throat itching. But anyway. So that has been confirmed, even though I didn't go to the gun shop. It was absolutely in Ammon where we went to the Sportsman's Warehouse and also to Pawn One. We just didn't know it at the time. So that is something that I put into place, that was the place the picture was taken. And I got to thinking a little further, okay, why would Lori take a picture of the ammo on the shelf? Because again, it doesn't say in the East Idaho East Idaho News article, it doesn't say this picture was taken by Lori or by Alex. And so I thought, okay, let's break this down. First of all, if Lori took a picture of the ammo, then that would mean that she was on a shopping spree for ammo. What would she be doing at a gun shop? Would she know a good deal when she saw one on ammo? How much does Lori Cox know about ammo and the caliber and the brand of ammo? So, out of my own common sense, and this is just me, it's my opinion, although they found that picture on Lori's phone, I think it was Alex Cox that perhaps took that picture to tell Lori, this is, I found a good deal on some ammo, or I found the right caliber of ammo. It would have almost had to be the pricing over the caliber of ammo. Would Lori be so concerned about saving money on ammo? Or would Alex Cox be concerned with saving money on ammo? The bottom line, and this is something just for you to chew on, why September 23rd of 2019 would anybody be taking a picture of ammo, whether it be Lori or Alex? That is something to keep in mind. We know Alex was in Ammon at Pawn One at one time and the Sportsman's Warehouse. So it makes sense that he would also be the one who went to the gun shop and took that picture and sent it to Lori's phone. Okay? That's just common sense to me. What do you think? Also, I want to bring up this. Justice Jane had commented, hey, KJ, was there cameras? Were there cameras on the outside of the apartment complex, either in those back alleys where the garages are, or on the front sides, or on the sides of the buildings? And I was like, gosh, I would have never thought to look for those. We do know that a Ring doorbell caught JJ out in the courtyard out there playing, but that is something that someone has installed when they move into the apartment. Wayne, on these apartment complexes, if it's not a gated community, and you being in the commercial and residential aspect of, you've built apartments before, correct?
Correct.
Would there have been, the apartment complex itself, it's not gated, would they install cameras throughout there?
Not very likely.
It's not likely, and on top of it all, you can go, but you can take my word for it, go back to the vid, stop it at certain points, look, you'll see, and I've looked, after hearing from Justice Jane, I do not see any cameras on the corners of the buildings, back where the garages are, or in the front areas. So that answers that question. It's a great question, because had we found cameras that the apartment complex installed, you know and I know it would have been a hell of a lot better than just a Ring doorbell. And again, we don't know how many people installed Ring doorbells within those. Remember, we looked at it, Lori's huge building there, then you went two more and there was Alex. So there's a lot of places that those Ring doorbells would have been installed, if at all, you know. The bottom line is there was no apartment surveillance as far as what we can see on the vid that we shot. And I looked in on every single frame to see if there was anything. And by the way, I'm also going to post on the community wall as I was looking for the cameras, I noticed we was driving through there. There was a garage door that was completely open. It wasn't Lori's or Alex's, but it was completely open, and I screenshot that to show y'all what the garage looks like on the inside. In fact, when you go in there, it's a 2-car garage, and then there's a door in the center that leads into the apartment. And I'm going to post that on the community wall just for an FYI, okay? So let's get to that first and foremost. I think that's probably the best vid that I've done in terms of all the questions that we had. We've talked about it for 2 years now, about this garage, but we wasn't really sure. And everybody was saying, KJ, when you get to Idaho, go in and let's figure this out. Let's get bare bones about it. And so I did as y'all requested. A lot of y'all requested. So we're going to look at the apartment layout and my observations. And also, keep in mind, some of these are my observations and others are from the comments. Please forgive me if I can't call out each of your names, but you know who you are. Not everything that old KJ speaks of is all coming out of my own perspective. It comes from all the rays on here as well. So we know that the garages are on the back sides of the apartments. We drove down through there. We know that Alex's apartment was 2 buildings over from Lori's. He was in 107, she was in 175, and Melanie P. was in 174 at the beginning of November. Now, Mr. Wayne, could you come over here a minute? Because when we left that apartment complex, before we started doing more vids, come on in here. He brought up, he was driving down the road, and this was a question that he asked. What was that question that you asked, Wayne?
The question was, why would Tylee go over to Alex's apartment when it was unfurnished? No kid's going to go anywhere unless it's a TV, video games, or something. So to expect her to just go over to an empty apartment, that's not very likely.
So that answers that question, y'all. Why would Tylee? Why would she go over? Why would she had to have known that Alex's apartment was empty? I mean, if she knows her Uncle Alex is over there, and remember it was the first week of September, and he later after that, it just seemed like he was with Lori all the time. You would think Tylee would be going, oh, my Uncle Alex is over in 107. What's to say she wouldn't have walked over there to see that he had an empty apartment? Was she going to sit on the floor? Was she I mean, what was she going to go over there for? Which answers an important question. If we think that maybe Alex lured her over there, okay? For what? What was her reason for going over Alex's? So to me, and this is just me, y'all, that whole question of if Lori was correct and Lori wasn't full of shit, which I think she is, where she says both children were killed in Alex Cox's apartment, you can almost see that JJ wouldn't know and go over there with Alex. And I do believe JJ was probably killed in 107. But Tylee's almost 18 years old. Well, she was 17 at the time. What reason would she even want to go over there? That lends me to believe that she was murdered in her own mother's apartment in 175. Because what would be the reason for her to go over there? And if you look at what the Detective Hope's probable cause affidavit and the movements through the GPS and stuff, it doesn't make sense that Tylee would have went over there. But it was an excellent point that Wayne had come, I would have never thought that. And, again, if you think Tylee and JJ were murdered in Alex's 107 there, why would Tylee go over there in the first place? Why would she go over there without JJ? Why wouldn't Alex say, Tylee, JJ, come and just murder them both in one fell swoop? You see what I'm saying? So Alex's apartment was not furnished with furniture. Why would Tylee freely go over there to only sit on the floor? What could she do over there? what in her own mind is the reason for her going over there? So this goes into Alex went over to Lori's in the early morning hours on September 9th. It was during a time that law enforcement says it wasn't normal for him to go over there. Did he walk over there from 107? Because they've got him on his cell phone going to Lori's in the early morning hours on the night. Did he walk from 107 and go over to Lori's? This is important. Just bear with me. Or did he drive his truck over to Lori's and go in the garage? You see what I'm saying? One way or the other, he either walked from 107 or he drove his truck over to Lori's and parked it in the garage. One or the other. There's no other way he could have been over at Lori's. You know what I'm saying? That early in the morning, except either walking over there or driving his truck over there. Okay? That answers. That's common sense. And did he, because either he walked or drove his truck over there, did he drive his vehicle from his apartment to Lori's to get Tylee in the garage? Or when they got back from Yellowstone, okay? They got back from Yellowstone. Did he pull into Lori's garage? You see what I'm saying? I mean, we're trying to break this down. When they get back from Yellowstone, and we went over that in the other vid where, you know, he leaves to go to the Maverick convenience store and all that. The bottom line is they went to Yellowstone in his vehicle. So when they got back, it says they went to Lori's. So if they went to Lori's, he ain't parking out there. He's parking inside the garage because that's the only places to park. So his truck had to. If it's showing that his phone, when they got back from Yellowstone, and it shows that he was at Lori's apartment, that equals his truck pulled into her garage. You see where we're going with this? Tylee's body had to, y'all. One way or the other, if you believe she was murdered at the apartment complex, had to be loaded up in Alex's truck. Whether you believe she was murdered on the way back or not, she had to be loaded up. And Lori's saying that Tylee was murdered in 107. The bottom line is that his cell phone coming back from Yellowstone went to Lori's. So it doesn't show in the coordinates or anything. They got back from Yellowstone and stopped over at Alex's and parked the vehicle in his garage and then walked over to Lori's. It doesn't say that. It would have easily said they got back from Yellowstone. They were at Alex's apartment briefly where he parked his truck and then walked over to Lori's. It doesn't do that. They go straight into Lori's garage, y'all. So if Tylee was murdered on the way back, as some of y'all say, then she was still in the truck. And the question is, unless JJ was asleep on the ride back, Tylee would not be murdered in the presence of JJ. You see what I'm saying? In that truck. And say Lori went off one direction with JJ and Alex went off in another with Tylee and he got her back at the truck and he murdered her. Where would he have put her? He couldn't put her in the back of the truck because, he didn't have nothing that I think he would even, unless he brought a tarp. He wouldn't have murdered her and put her in the back of the cab in the four-door with JJ getting in the vehicle. Just wouldn't happen. So that doesn't seem common sense at all that would have happened. Now, if you're talking about Tylee got murdered, like they were giving her drugs or something, and she fell asleep from the drowsiness of the drugs on the way back, well, JJ would have thought his sister was asleep. But then again, he's getting out of the truck when they get back at Lori's, and his sister's not. Think about that. She stays in the truck, as some of y'all think. She's sitting in the truck in Lori's garage. JJ would have flipped out, don't you think? JJ would have said something. And maybe that is exactly one of the reasons, not the main reason, but one of the reasons, because JJ was smart enough to want his sister. And in my view, I believe that they did this out of sight of JJ and told JJ that Tylee went to college. That's probably what they told him. Yeah. Just remember this. They all got back from Yellowstone and they were all together. It doesn't show that Alex went to his place first in his Ford F-150 and then to Lori's. He's got his cell phone on him. He's pulling into Lori's garage. Does that fill in anything for y'all? Again, Lori says JJ was murdered. Well, she says killed, but it was murdered. I don't know why she don't use the damn word murder, because that's exactly what happened. Lori says JJ was murdered at Alex's apartment. Remember, okay? Melanie Gibb, Warwick, and Chad was not there September 8th and 9th when Tylee was murdered. There was no witnesses. There was nobody there. It was just Alex, Tylee, JJ, and Lori, okay? And many of y'all might disagree and say, well, they were there. They just, for whatever reason. Well, I can assure you that Justin Lum, and according to the documents in the affidavit, i.e. Melanie Gibb and David Warwick and Chad had alibis during the time that Tylee was being murdered. So there is no doubt in my mind, because remember what happened on September 8th. We're going to get to it in a minute. Chad Daybell. If you're thinking, well, maybe Chad came over there and was part of Tylee being murdered. We'll get to it here. But they were there. Melanie Gibb, David Warwick, and Chad were there the weekend that JJ was murdered. Which, again, y'all have known me for 2 years now, and you know what I think of Melanie Gibb and David Warwick. We'll get to them, too. I believe, and here we go. This is where I'm kind of homing in on my hypothesis and my theory. I believe that the last picture of JJ sitting on the couch in his red pajamas was before Chad, Lori, Melanie Gibb, Alex, and Warwick left to meet the real estate agent on purchasing that property. Remember, Warwick and Gibb, they 1 minute, one of them saying only these people were here, and the others say it. Their stories are not lining up. I believe at some point during that, whether Alex, if the real estate agent said, yeah, Alex was there, I will venture to say that Alex left, because I believe that Alex was left alone with JJ. I don't believe the real estate agent's going to say Alex was there, to be honest with you. I think the real estate agent's going to say it was just Chad, Lori, Warwick, and Gibb. That's who I think was looking at that property, and that Alex was with JJ after they left. This was during the time, okay? When JJ was taken to Alex's apartment, when Melanie Gibb, Warwick, Lori, and Chad got back. Now, this whole thing about Melanie Gibb and Warwick and Lori doing this podcast and stuff, it doesn't line up, really. But I believe they came back. I believe Chad and Lori left. Or I don't know if they came back to Lori's with Melanie Gibb and Warwick. They might have came back into the apartment complex, and Gibb and Warwick went back to Lori's. But Chad and Lori themselves went over to Alex's. Okay, that's what I think. Thus, this lines up with the evening text that Lori sent Melanie Gibb saying, be there soon, getting JJ to sleep. I believe Lori and Chad and Alex was in Alex's apartment, y'all. That's what I think. And the reason I think that is because Melanie Gibb would have never tried to get a hold of Chad and Lori later that evening if she didn't know they were together. Okay? And she had to sit down with law enforcement and come up with all this bullshit to make it make sense how her and David Warwick didn't know something nefarious was going on. I.e. the podcast, unless they had proof of that podcast, which none of us have seen it. None of us have heard it. Also, the jiggling of the doorknob. David Warwick having a nightmare in the middle of the night. And how she tried to get a hold of Lori and Chad. I believe at this time, Chad, Alex, and Lori were together in Alex's apartment. However, whether they were doing some kind of ritualistic bullshit, whether they were in there just working together to murder JJ, I believe Lori was there when JJ was murdered. I do. I honestly do. I think she put the blue blanket on him. That's what I think. Again, let's keep in mind, Chad told the police the last time he saw JJ was in October. That's a crock of shit. Why would he tell them that? Because he knew. And again, Melanie Gibb tried to get a hold of Lori and Chad late that night. She knew they were together. Melanie Gibb and David Warwick's got to live with this shit the rest of their life. When Lori sent that text, be there soon, getting JJ to sleep, did she and David Warwick know what that meant? Because I don't think it meant anything about getting JJ to sleep. I think David Warwick, Melanie Gibb knew that he was being murdered. Or the zombie was being released out of his body. You know what I mean? Lori comes back, according to Melanie Gibb, and does a podcast with Warwick and Gibb. If that is bared out in the trial, that podcast actually happened, I believe Lori then again left again, leaves again overnight. And none of the stuff that Gibb has made up, all of the things that Gibb has said overnight, that is just to make it her and David Warwick look like they didn't know anything was going on. And if you think about everything she told the police in that last interview, it doesn't make sense at all. None of it. And the reason that it doesn't make sense is because it didn't happen. Pure and simple. I will never, ever, for a million years, think that Melanie Gibb and David Warwick did not know that Tylee Ryan was dead and that JJ Vallow was dead. Pure and simple. And this, then of course I wrote in my notes, some of you believe Tylee was murdered before coming back from Yellowstone. How would JJ have behaved on the ride back, y'all? Again, this goes back to being asleep or whatever. It really is not viable. And then some of y'all believe that on the way back from Yellowstone, they stopped off at Chad's. But if you look at the time frame of where they left Buckaroo's Barbecue, which, by the way, Wayne and I was going to go there. It's been shut down, so we couldn't go to Buckaroo's Barbecue. The time there, it wouldn't have worked out. So I don't believe they swung by Chad's. The 23rd, excuse me, the 8th and the 9th. Tammy would have been around. They wouldn't have went over there. Now, let's get to what was going on with Tylee, when Tylee Ryan was being murdered. How do we know that Chad Daybell was not there when Tylee Ryan was being murdered? We know, according to the documents, the indictment, that on September 8th, which was the same day that Lori, Alex, Tylee, and JJ were at Yellowstone, that's on a Sunday, y'all. September 8th of 2019, Chad is Googling south-southwest wind. We know why he did that. We know why that was included in the indictment. He wanted to know where that wind, he didn't want it to blow forward where we saw at his residence across the street, all those houses. It would have been just fine and dandy for Chad Daybell to have the wind going toward that empty field back there, okay? And why would he Google south-southwest wind the same day that Lori, Alex, and the kids are out at Yellowstone? Because he knows that Tylee is being murdered that day, and that Alex is coming out the very next day? Think about that. This goes to some of y'all thinking they came back from Yellowstone and stopped at Chad Daybell's. Well, number one, it was a Sunday. Tammy was there. We also know in the indictment that Chad and Tammy was signing increases on LifeMap insurance on September 8th. So Tammy was with Chad that Sunday. She didn't have to work. But guess what? Tammy had to work on Monday. So in my view, this is what I come up with, that Chad knew that Tylee was going to die that evening or overnight. He knew that was going to happen. And so he was preparing. He was preparing for all case scenario. He'd already decided what they were going to do. In terms of burning, because the south-southwest wind. He was preparing for Alex to come out on the 9th, which was Monday, because Tammy wouldn't be there. She'd be at work. So again, this goes back to mens rea, which means premeditation and knowing at the time. Chad Daybell was not there when Tylee Ryan was murdered, but his actions, his overt acts, proved that he knew it was going to happen. And it was going to happen between Lori and Alex murdering Tylee, okay? And this whole bullshit that Alex did this in a vacuum and Lori had no idea is a crock of shit, okay? Diane Hanna on here, on our channel, brought up an observant point on the drive out on the video. Remember, we left the Maverick convenience store. 5 minutes before that is the apartment complex. But Diane Hanna brought up an observant point on the drive out to Chad's. The church, and y'all can go back, rewind that video. You'll see that church. I did not think to talk about that. And I'm thankful that Diane Hanna did see the church that Wayne and I passed, which was on the right. So be looking as we're on the video, as we're going down the road, you're going to see it, where Alex parked the morning of that Tammy was murdered, okay? So that's something for all you researchers out there. Go back, see which kind of church it was. You know, it was about 10 minutes from Chad's, so y'all know it was right off. We got off the interstate there and started down through on that straightaway. You'll look to the right, you'll see that church. There's no other churches before Chad that I see. I rewind it and looked, and so that was the actual church that Alex parked at when Tammy was murdered, okay? Now we get to this whole thing that was like a gut punch. It tore my heart out to even, I remember I was blabbing off in the video going down the road, and Chad's resident just ran up on me. And it sucker punched me because I knew I was going to run into that fence at some point and see that, and it was going to hurt me. But from what I see of Chad's backyard, y'all, and one of y'all pointed out, please forgive me, but you know who you are, talked about, well, at that time there would have been all kinds of leaves on the trees and all that. But folks, go back and watch the video. There's only one big bush and a tree over where JJ was found. There's not a lot of barrier bushes or anything that would conceal anything. It was open, y'all. It was open. Tylee's whole body would not have been carried out there to that burn area, the burn pit. There's no way. There's no way that could have happened. What would they have done? Rolled her up in some tarp or something and threw it in the pit? She was a big girl, y'all. They would have had to dismember her in order to burn her up as quickly as they did. And trust me when I say, they've got Alex Cox out there 2 hours and 3 minutes. That's not enough time to burn her body up. The burning of the body started, and he stayed a while, and then he had to go. The 2 hours, 3 minutes was the time they were out there in that one of those buildings dismembering Tylee. Maybe he was there when they initially started to burn her. I'm assuming that they put her in a pieces of her in a wheelbarrow or something. You can, or taking out one at a time, maybe with a bunch of sticks over top of her to make it look like they were burning limb debris. They weren't going to carry a whole body out there, y'all. Not in the daytime. With the people could have seen that easily. And as I said, it just makes sense to me, y'all, that some of this had to have gone on at nighttime to conceal, to walk out there with Tylee especially. The time it would have taken to burn her up. It's so sad to even talk about, but we're trying to figure this out. JJ could have quickly been placed in a pre-dug grave. We know how he was done. He was wrapped all up. Alex was only out there 17 minutes, so Alex wouldn't have dug that. Chad had that pre-dug. Chad had the paneling. Chad had the rocks ready to go. He had it all thought out. He had it all thought out about the south-southwest wind and their hole. He knew that Tylee was going to be murdered, and he was going to help dispose of Tylee, and how they were going to do it is burn her up, basically, and bury her in the pet cemetery. And this whole concept that Lori and Alex did this and then told Chad, oh, something terrible happened to Tylee and we're just so afraid of getting in trouble. Chad, you got to help us. Nothing bad happened. She just died. The zombie must have done it to her or something. And then Chad tried to help or whatever. No, he was actively planning on disposing of Tylee with south-southwest wind, with pre-digging a grave. You know what I'm saying? And obviously he was pre-planning his wife's murder because he was increasing her insurance. And it's just so happened that the same day that Alex and Lori are out at Yellowstone with Tylee and JJ, he's doing this, you know? ShipShape, which is a YouTube person on here, says the empty apartment of Alex was rented just to do the heinous acts. Keeping it empty meant easy cleanup and less evidence. And that's a great point, ShipShape. But here's what I'm telling you. I don't for a second believe that Tylee was dismembered at the apartment complex. I think she was brought out to Chad's the September 9th, the day after, whether she was murdered overnight or not. It had to be after they got back from Yellowstone, and I believe it was at Lori's apartment. They did that at Chad's. But, they had to. Chad had all the stuff in the barns he needed, don't you think? Julie Coe says, looked at Chad's home and driveway and wondered where Alex parked his vehicle to walk upon Tammy on October the 9th. And that's a great point because he's on a corner lot right there because there's a road in front of his house, then there's a road by it. So he's on a corner. And there's all kinds of houses across the street from the front. So where would Alex, he wouldn't have parked in the driveway because Tammy came into her driveway, was getting groceries out. He either was on that side street or, he had to have been on the side street, somewhere down through there. Because he took a shot at her. And isn't it weird that this happens and you got directly across the street all these other residences and nobody sees anything? He runs back to his vehicle down the same road that fence is, that memorial set up for Tylee and JJ, and he gets in his vehicle and leaves. That's my opinion. It's a great point, Julie Coe. So anyway, I really feel like Tylee was murdered in her own mother's apartment. This is just my theory. You might have a different one. I believe JJ was taken over to Alex's. I believe that Melanie Gibb and David Warwick knew. I think they knew before they even got there that weekend that Tylee was already dead. That's what I believe. And looking at things tangibly, not just looking at pictures or reports from Dateline or whatever, actually being there with all of you, it just opens that up for me, the way those apartments are set up, that all the concealment happened in the garages. It's just as clear as it could possibly be. There's no way that they, because remember, I guess it was last year sometime we said, well, maybe Alex loaded Tylee or JJ up at nighttime and there'll be some Ring doorbell on it. Remember us speaking of that? They didn't have to, y'all. They had that garage that led into their apartment. It was the perfect cover. And in the case of Chad Daybell, who basically, to me, conspired to murder Tylee and JJ, I think Chad was there when JJ was murdered. I think Lori was there and Alex was there. Some of y'all think that Melanie Gibb and David Warwick, they're all in Alex's apartment doing some ritual shit to him. But I'll tell you this, common sense says it was Lori, Alex, and Chad. And Melanie Gibb and David Warwick were there to be their alibis, in my opinion. And it all backfired. That's what I think happened. And Melanie Gibb and David Warwick needs to be in prison cells just as Chad and Lori are going to end up in prison cells. And nothing would have given me. By the way, when we went over to the Madison County Women's Detention Center, just knowing she's in there and she can't get out and hurt nobody, knowing she's going to eventually be in a prison, I think one of y'all said Pocatello prison for women, the fact that she's never going to be out here anymore and be a danger to society, it just absolutely gives me peace of mind. And I just, I'm thankful that Wayne was good enough to me to allow us to come to Idaho. And y'all don't forget, January the 9th was when this trial was supposed to happen. We were originally going to cancel that since it had been moved to April. But we decided, well, we've already got this time allotted. We've already got this reservation. Let's just go. Let's do this to get justice through understanding for me and for all the Rays on here. I wished I could have done it in a more, coordinated, more professional way. But y'all know me. I'm just an old country girl. I appreciate all the comments. It's helped open me up in a lot of ways, especially just thinking of things that I would never think about. I think Jerry Harris, the other Ray that I met over at the Sportsman's Warehouse, she made a statement to me. We talked a little bit, and she said, those children are our children in a lot of ways. And I think the one thing that keeps me moving forward with all of you and this channel is just knowing that we love the victims and the victims' family members. We have a heart for them. We want justice through understanding. And just to have the best of the best here on this channel means so much. We got a couple of days left in our trip here in Idaho. I'm hoping to get in a couple of interviews. I'm not going to key you in on what those interviews will be because I don't know if they're going to happen or not. But if they do, I think you'll be very interested in the content that I will be providing. So please leave your comments and continue to leave your comments. Go back to the vids that I posted on the different areas that we traveled yesterday. You don't have to listen to me speak. Just look at the screenshots of them or something. Just kind of look at it over. Maybe something will trigger something will encourage you to go and put something in the comments that maybe you didn't see the first time. So anyway, thank y'all so much for giving me the honor of working this case with y'all. Thank y'all so much for everything. Let's keep Cresha and Kay and Larry in our prayers. Cresha's mama's passed away. Let's say prayer for her and her family. And I just love you all. Thank y'all so much for everything. And we'll just keep moving forward. Keep looking. I'm going to possibly be releasing some more pre-records and definitely some images on the community wall. So with that said, I love you all and keep on looking.